It seems as if this entire thing is at a critical point right now where it could tip in either direction, and Johnson and this gentleman seem to be doing their best to try to keep this crowd under control. More people trying to approach the emergency vehicle. And again, the gentleman with the bullhorn urging everyone to get out of the way. I can tell you there's probably a lot of media crowding on the side here as well, with cameras as well. Now here come more officers. They're coming out. They have weapons. They are going to make arrests. They're making arrests. Right now they're grabbing people and making arrests, and they are handcuffing them and taking them back. I don't know what this will do to the crowd, but tensions are really high right now, and there's a lot of anger all of a sudden that spilled out into the street. More police are working their way out into the crowd, and they are pushing everyone back. They're pushing everyone back. It is an incredibly chaotic scene right now. Everybody's moving back real quick again. The police are going back in their lines. We're still hearing that piercing siren sound. There's a lot more police officers here that have come streaming down West Florissant to support that line of officers that were here at Ferguson Avenue. The protesters are not going away. They seem to be moving forward. Now an armored vehicle is coming down this way. I got to move out of the street. It's coming this way. I'm going to retreat back over here. And I have a better view now of what I can see. They're still making efforts to try and move that crowd back away from that line of armored officers. Right now, it seems as if I'm not seeing any more bottles or things being thrown at the police. A lot of people here are making a tremendous effort to try and calm everybody down. That piercing noise just got a little louder. And now that line seems to be retreating back to a distance here that police maybe feel comfortable with at this point. I hope you guys can still hear us and still get this, because it really is quite interesting. It's quite interesting what's going on. We really hit a point here where it seemed as if things were going to tip into another night of violence, but it may be at this point. It's been avoided right now. Now, I can tell you there seems to be a great deal of anger in the crowd as it continues to retreat back up West Florissant. The police are not moving. They are still holding their police line. We are at the corner of Ferguson Avenue in West Florissant. We are right in front of a Family Dollar store that was actually open for business today and so far has not been damaged. Okay, that piercing noise is getting louder again. It seems to be coming from that large armored vehicle right in the center of the street. The crowd, some in the crowd holding their hands up, milling around. This was not the way things had been going for most of the day and into the early evening hours here in Ferguson. State police had managed to keep the street clear. They had let the protesters continue to march on the sidewalks as long as they kept moving. They did not want people standing around. Now another man is approaching the police line with his hand up. He's been told to stop, and he is gesturing to the officers. And now he's going back. But for the most part, those protests seemed to go on. They were loud. There were a lot of people. But people kept moving on the sidewalks, and the police managed to keep the streets clear. And we saw the officers out here mingling. Captain Johnson was out here after sundown talking with a lot of people. But as I mentioned, A large crowd just started to form in this intersection about 15 minutes ago. Things started getting a little agitated. We saw what looked like a fight or a lot of scuffling break out, and then bottles started being thrown at the police. And once we heard some glass bottles crash, that's when we saw the police go back and get their helmets and their gear, and then those armored vehicles seemingly just came out of nowhere, pulled right up with their bright spotlights on, and now we've got this large truck with that piercing siren noise right now. But everything seems to be in a standoff position right now. We're not seeing the mingling of police and protesters that we had seen all evening. It's almost as if both sides have gone to their own side and they're staring each other down at this point.
Matt, you're doing an outstanding job of reporting from the scene. Steve and Sharon in studio as we begin News 4 at 10. Give us an idea how many protesters, how many police are in the standoff here, and do the protesters outnumber the police by a wide number?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. I wish I could tell you. I don't have the high vantage point where I can actually look down West Florissant to get an idea, but it looks as if, well, I mean, the protesters are scattering all around. I mean, it's not a solid group of protesters that's in front of us. I would guess maybe 1,000 people here right now immediately facing the police, and it looks as if there are at least a few hundred police officers out here, all in front of those armored vehicles right now. But there are so many more protesters, Steve, further back up West Florissant, further back up towards the Quick Trip. So it's hard to say, and looking down in the dark, but there are certainly a lot of people here tonight. You know, there is no curfew, and so we had been seeing an endless stream of people leaving and people coming in, going back and forth. We actually saw a lot of clergy and ministers here. Now the armored vehicle is making an attempt. It wants to move everybody out of the street, and they are making they are making an attempt to move everyone out of the street.
And we just heard
right
some
now.
shots.
And that's making a lot of people angry right now, I can tell you. That is making a lot of people angry.
Armet Tesni,
It just
live.
Now that armored vehicle went straight down West Florissant, and I don't know if it's answering an emergency call or what it's doing. It's now taking a position up in a parking lot near the McDonald's. It looks like a side position from these protesters. The other officers remain, and the other armored vehicles remain right now. I'm just getting reunited with my photographer, Scott Thomas. We had gotten separated, but he kept coming. He kept bringing the pictures to you. Scott, we're on live, so now we've got another event going on out in the street. It looks like we've got protesters holding hands, and I don't know if they're getting ready to pray or if they're doing a form of peaceful protest. But as I look to my right, I can see these officers. They certainly seem ready to go. And there's the siren again. And they're not moving. They are. Go ahead. Yeah, Steve, it looks as if these are a group of the peaceful protesters who are now making a human chain and actually making an effort to police themselves, and they are pushing the crowd north on West Florissant. They're pushing them away.
We got a whole.
Now I can see lights on the other end, police lights on the other end, but they are pushing this crowd away from these police officers.
Matt, we want to
continue to move and not break their line. Yeah.
Matt, we'll step away from you for just a moment. Julian Johnson is about 3 to 4 blocks away in West Florissant. You see a line of police cars heading, we believe, toward Julian's position. And Julian, do we understand that you heard gunshots within the last few minutes?
Steve, that's right. We're at the corner of West Florissant and Canfield, and just a few moments ago, we heard several flurries of gunshots. We're not sure if that's what this group of about 9 or 10 officers, possibly 12, have just rushed down West Florissant to get to. But again, there were about, I'd say, 9 gunshots that we heard